Main events get remembered, champions get photographed, but every wrestling territory, especially Portland, was built on something just as important. The wrestlers who opened the show, anchored the middle, and made the stars look like stars. They didn't always leave with the belt, but without them, there is no main event. And this is the Mid-Card Chronicle, featuring the dependable talents who made every card complete. Now, before we get started, make sure you stay with me all the way to the end of this episode, because while this is the final chapter of the Mid-Card Chronicle, it's not the end of the story. There's something new and exciting coming. John Anson is one of those wrestlers whose story sticks with you, not because of the championships or main events, but because of how he was treated. He first appeared in Portland in 1971 for a single match, losing to Haru Sasaki. Then he returned in 1976 and became a steady presence over the next couple of years. But from a fan's perspective, there was always something frustrating about Anson's run. He was constantly disrespected. In 1977, Anson won the Northwest Tag Team titles with Outlaw Ron Bass. It should have been a stepping stone. Instead, it became something else. As the storyline unfolded, Bass was being positioned for a bigger program, teaming with Lonnie Main against Buddy Rose and Ed Wiskowski. Anson was simply in the way. So during a match with Mark Hanna, Anson went to the top rope and missed a knee drop to the floor. That was the explanation. He was injured. Except he wasn't. He didn't miss time. He was just replaced. Bass moved on. Anson was left behind. They gave him a small measure of redemption. He defeated Bass on his way out, but the message had already been sent. And in 1978, history repeated itself. Anson was teaming with the Iron Sheik when Bull Ramos came in and simply took Sheik as his partner. Again, Anson was pushed aside. And yet, this same wrestler had very real credentials. In Vancouver, he won the Canadian tag titles twice with Don Leo Jonathan and Randy Morse. Earlier in his career, as Carl Von Schatz, he teamed with Kurt Von Hess and captured the NWA World Tag Team titles in Detroit 5 times, along with championships in Los Angeles and Japan. That's not a mid-card resume. That's a proven champion. And still, in Portland, he was the one who got replaced. John Anson eventually retired quietly. His story isn't about what he couldn't do. It's about how quickly a wrestler's position can change, regardless of ability. Frankie Lane walked into Portland in January of 1970 and immediately found himself in the mix. Not always as a single star, but consistently in important tag matches. He often teamed with Lonnie Main or Johnny Costas, feuding with the Von Steigers, one of the top heel teams of that era. He captured the Northwest Tag Team titles with Main in 1970 and Bobby Nichols in 1971. Then came a moment that would ripple through wrestling history. Lane went to Hawaii, met a young Jimmy Snuka, and brought him to Portland for his first matches. That decision matters. Lane and Snuka teamed up and won the tag titles in July of 1971. From there, both men moved on, first to Los Angeles, then to Japan. Snuka's path is well known. Lane is, well, more complicated. At one point, he even got married in the ring after a match. His bride, Linda, already part of his act as a valet. In 1973, Lane returned to Portland with a completely different persona, the heel cowboy. With Linda at ringside, passing him a bull rope as a weapon, he entered into a natural feud with Stephen Little Bear. It was the old cowboy versus Indian gimmick. Simple, effective, territorial storytelling at its core. But the run was short. Lane moved on again, this time to Alabama. And then came the incident. A violent altercation with the Mighty Zulu left Lane seriously injured after being struck in the head with a pipe. He spent a long time recovering in the hospital. After wrestling, he returned to his family farm. Frankie Lane's story is layered. A connector of talent, a reinvention artist, and a reminder of just how fragile a wrestling career could be. Rip Rogers had the look. Blonde hair, dark beard, a physique built from bodybuilding. He stood out. When he arrived in Portland in June of 1979, he quickly aligned himself with Buddy Rose. On paper, it made sense. Two strong personalities, both capable talkers. But the team never quite clicked. Rogers stayed about 6 months and left. When he returned in June of 1980, things had changed. This time, he pulled off something unexpected. He defeated Roddy Piper. Not once, twice, in Salem and in Portland. At the time, it felt unusual, almost out of place. Later, Rogers would explain why. He said it was part of a larger plan. He was only supposed to be in for a short run, 3 weeks, leading into a 6-man tag program. The idea was to position him as a contender and help transition Piper out and then close the loop. But here's the key. Fans didn't know, and in those days, they couldn't predict it. Nobody came in for just 3 weeks. So when Rogers beat Piper, it meant something. When Piper gave his farewell speech, it felt real. Then Piper beat Rogers on the way out. The story completed itself. Rip Rogers' Portland run is a perfect example of how the territory system worked when everything clicked. It was unpredictable, layered, and believable. Today, Rogers is known as one of wrestling's most respected trainers, passing on the knowledge of a system that doesn't exist anymore. Kurt Von Hess is another example of how a wrestler could be dominant in one territory and nearly invisible in another. In Vancouver, he was a force. In Portland, he was a visitor. He made a handful of appearances in 76 and 77, wrestling matches against the Anoa'i brothers, and Tama Samoa, Matty Suzuki, Bull Ramos, and Les Thornton. The results were mixed. Losses, draws, short stays. Nothing that suggested a major push. But outside Portland, Von Hess had a strong resume. He captured the Canadian tag titles with John Quinn and built a career teaming with the various German wrestlers Otto von Heller, Kurt von Bronner, and Karl von Stroheim. His most successful partnership? Karl von Schatz, better known in the Northwest as John Anson, who we just talked about. That connection ties this episode together. 2 accomplished wrestlers, both finding different levels of success depending on the territory. Not every wrestler becomes the face of a territory. Every territory survived because of the ones who show up night after night and make the card work. The steady hands, the character builders, the glue that held it together. This has been the Mid-Card Chronicles series, because without the middle, there is no main event. But the story of Portland wrestling doesn't end here, because beyond the middle, beyond the main event, there were the attractions, the giants, the special features, the unforgettable moments that brought fans through the doors. And that's where we're headed next. From legends like Andre the Giant, to the women who broke barriers, to the unique attractions that made every card feel different. We'll explore the acts that didn't just fill the card, they sold the tickets. This series is based on the Encyclopedia of Portland Wrestlers by historian Mike Rogers. It's available now on Amazon, and new episodes drop every Friday. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. I've been your host, Frank Culbertson, and thanks for joining us here on the Mid-Card Chronicle.